So the team pulled together a couple myths.
Oh, okay.
All
Yeah.
right, and I wanted to run these by you.
Oh,
and
I love a good myth busting.
and we love to pull really reputable stuff.
Sure.
Like
I appreciate that.
Yeah, this isn't like
somebody's Instagram.
I had a baby.com/org/ca/ whatever.
Yeah.
This is from John Hopkins.
Okay, great.
Okay, and they wrote an article discussing some myths surrounding exercise, pregnancy, and with you being pre and post certified in performance training, especially, we wanted to get your professional opinion on them. And I feel like there are also some listeners out there that struggle with wanting to either start, continue their fitness routine, but again, going back to like the fear mostly of harming baby.
Sure.
And so I've got 3 myths here for you. We'll take them one at a time.
Okay,
You ready for
great.
it?
I'm ready.
Okay. Myth 1 is from this article is if you don't usually exercise, you shouldn't start during pregnancy.
Yeah, that's an old one that goes around a lot. And I think it's kind of similar to the keep your heart rate at 140 or below and the, only lift 40 pounds or things like that. But it's old advice that sometimes is often still given. ACOG, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, which is kind of like the governing body for everything. And we look to them because they're looking at the current research, recommends that everyone with an uncomplicated pregnancy, again, talk to your healthcare provider about what's right for you, should exercise. What we know now, the old days of like, oh, you should rest, put your feet up, that does more harm than good. Blood flow is so important. We're at higher risk for blood clots when in pregnancy and postpartum, mobility, delivery. And we know from the literature that like women who exercise during pregnancy, have a better recovery, but they generally have less medical interventions, less complications. They're lower risk for all things like preeclampsia, things like that. So it's now recommended for everybody. Now, does that mean that you can jump into like, training for a marathon or, certainly you want to think about what you're doing, but everybody should exercise. And I would add to that, everybody should strength train because sometimes it's recommended like, oh, you should walk or you should swim or you should do yoga. All those things are great. You should also strength train.
Amen, sister.
Yeah.
So myth 1 is actually busted by the governing body.
Busted. Yes.
So if you don't usually exercise, you should.
You should.
Start exercising as long as, with the caveat, there's no extracurricular complications that would prevent you uniquely otherwise from doing so.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right, that's settled, everyone. So if
now
you are pregnant, planning on becoming pregnant, all right, you got to go see Amy. You got to go see one of the 400 burn boot camp gyms out there. Myth number 2. Athletes can continue vigorous exercise throughout pregnancy without a cause for concern.
Yeah. It's that second part, right? Like you can continue doing a lot of the things that you're doing because your body has adapted to that, but you still have to look at risk versus benefit. Just like we were talking about before of our CrossFit athletes or our high level athletes of what is the risk for doing this pull up or doing this, overhead lift or, something super heavy or doing, running a marathon would be another example. Your body's already doing that. There's no need to run a marathon. You definitely want to be thinking about the changes that are happening in your body and the modifications that come with that. Doesn't mean that you have to stop doing everything. It just means you want to think about specifically with intra-abdominal pressure and intensity level.
So we talked about that one already.
Yes, we did.
Okay. All right, good. So athletes can continue vigorous exercise, but not without cause for concern.
Not without cause, because that's how that should read. Yes.
Okay. We've got to have a little bit of concern there.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So no more PRs in your 3rd trimester, everybody.
No more PRs. Sorry.
Okay. That's what I hear you saying.
Yes.
All right. And myth number 3, this is the last one from this article. The only value of exercise during pregnancy is to help you lose weight more easily after your baby is born.
You can tell how I feel about that one.
You don't feel too good about that one. Explain why.
Well, one, we got to get rid of those, lose the baby weight, get your body back, like that pre-baby body. Oh, we got to get rid of that language, right? Along with natural, right? We'll get rid of all of that. Certainly the research does let us know that if you do work out during pregnancy, you have an easier recovery. And a lot of times weight loss is part of that. But I think of that more in terms of just how you feel, right? And how your body functions. But again, we talked about all the physical demands of pregnancy and labor and delivery and parenting that you want to train for. But beyond that, the mental health aspect, the emotional aspect is huge. It's just, for women, like being able to connect with your body in that way, especially in the postpartum period, because you feel very disconnected. Your body has been through so much. Your body doesn't feel like it's your own. You often feel foreign in your body of just like, I don't know, like I've never felt like this because it's my first time having a baby, where everything is so different. What fitness and moving your body intentionally can do for you mentally and emotionally during that time, not to mention and I dealt with this with postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression it can be really healing in that way. So I could write in fact, I did in graduate school, write, an entire research paper on the benefits of, perinatal exercise, just, the whole period of what that can be beyond just the physical. So, but lose the baby.
You really don't like that third one, do you?
I really don't like that.
Well, I vibe with you on that because it is that perception or the approach or the attitude, whatever word that you want to choose and use. It is about that. It's like, okay, if I understand that my approach to this is to stay strong as I possibly can, without overdoing it, so that I can have a delivery that allows me to recover in an efficient way. Like if that's the approach, you take it much more cautiously than you would if I just want to lose weight.
Yeah.
So at Burn, we've got this whole message that we preach is very similar to the message that you preach. And it's what you can gain is way more important than what you can lose.
Right.
We've had this culture of deficits and, and wanting to lose weight and needing to eat less and all these things. It's like, no, actually what we're really here for is to feel better, to gain confidence, to gain strength. I think those are the three things that we can replace for this language of loss.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked with a psychologist, Dr. Casey Ovides, on the last podcast that we recorded in studio. And her whole thing was about, or part of her whole thing was about language, about the subtle language that you use around whatever it is that you want in your life. Even, negative and positive language are really separated in not a fine line, in a big thick line. And, the stuff that comes into like negative language is language of loss, even subtle and different language. Like, I don't know, fine, sure, maybe, and then it's like on the other side of it, it's like this optimistic language pattern. And that's what I mean when I say approach, like, how are you approaching it? And so part of the whole approach is nutrition, right? Because what you're talking about up until this point, that's a large, it's a few pieces of the puzzle. Sure. It's not just one piece of the puzzle. It's a very important